Any, well, I'm going to close the public hearing at 7:26 p.m. We'll move on to the next item, Scotts Valley Unified School District 26-27 preliminary budget.
Testing. Okay. I may proceed. Okay, here we go.
Great.
Okay, hi everybody. This is a preliminary adopted budget for the upcoming 26-27 school year, and multi-year projection to come along with it. It is preliminary because this comes on the heels of the preliminary LCAP that was just presented to you, and we will bring the final based on your input to the January 16th board meeting. So the LCAP and the budget come together as a package in both cases. All right, so we're going to cover revenue assumptions, expenditure assumptions. So, you know, the two big parts of this budget, what it looks like over the multi-years. We will refer to the May revise and then talk about next steps. And up here, there is a nice long sheet of very tiny numbers, but I have a QR code, and this will take you to the PDF on your mobile device so that you can zoom in and actually see what those numbers look like. This is what we call the long sheet here at Scotts Valley Unified. We've been using this form for many years, and it is a tool to give us an overview of what is the budget. Now, the budget is not this sheet. The budget is actually over behind me on the table, and it's a 120+ page document in a very specific government format. But we try to put it here on one single page so that we can all gather around a single document to draw some conclusions. So I'm going to be referring to bits and pieces of this as we move along, but hopefully if you want to get a close look, you're able to pull that up on your device. And so here we go, moving on. So the revenue assumptions, these are the money coming in. And we look at a few key things. We have to take our most educated guess as to what they will be next year and the year beyond. I do say educated guess because even with in terms of COLA, as we kind of just mentioned, the state has not adopted its budget for next year. And we will be adopting our budget prior to the state adopting their budget. So we are always a little bit of a step behind in that sense. The timing of that is because the state must wait for the taxes to come in and review all the taxes to be able to set up their actual budget, but we need to finish before school gets out and everybody's gone for the summer. It just doesn't work out in our favor. We have used the governor's January COLA. So that's the cost of living percentage adjustments from the governor's January proposed budget here. Since the work was done to create this adopted budget, the May revise did come out. That came out on Thursday before last week. And some of those numbers in the May revise look to be improved. So that will be good news. Just to be clear, yes, we do have the governor's May revise 2.41% for next school year here. Additionally, we also have raised our attendance rate to 95.25 for next year and the out years. That is, as we acknowledged in the last presentation, the trend that we're seeing across all of our schools. And so we're able to put that number up from 94%, and therefore we're seeing projected increased revenues in the out years based on that. You also see our enrollment numbers here. These enrollment numbers include students not in our schools at county level programs within the SELPA. And we do everything that we can to make sure that they're in fact higher than those if possible. So this is what we feel is our best estimate at the time. There are other revenue streams that come into the budget. The main one is the LCFF general fund revenue, which is what the COLA hits. There's also federal title money. The numbers you see there of the money we received, 98,000, 94, 90, 26, 11. If you were to compare us to other districts, that is a very, very small number. For the same reasons that we receive very little LCFF supplemental funds, it has to do with our unduplicated student count being so low compared to other districts. So we don't get a lot from the federal government. When we feared that the federal government was going to pull all the funding away, we were less concerned as other school districts for that reason. So, you know, we don't budget teacher donations until we receive them. However, we are budgeting community donations from SVEF and the significant commitments from our elementary parent clubs that have been made for the upcoming year. And we chose to do that because it does represent a significant amount of money, and it shows our budget to be as accurate as possible. By including that, we feel secure that those funds will come, or we have already received them. We have the Art and Music Education Act, Prop 28. I'll give you another report on that. ELOP, the Extended Learning Opportunity Program, brings in $247,000 next year, and the parcel tax in year 3 of 7 is projected to bring in $1.1 million next year. So the expenditure assumptions, this is the other side of the ledger. The health and welfare benefit increases on the multi-year projection have been increased. Historically, for many years, we kept it at a 5%. And for 3 years in a row, it came in well above 5%, 8.5%, 7.5%, 9.5%. Next year coming up, it's 13%. There isn't any good reason to believe it will be much lower in the foreseeable future. And we've heard of even higher percentages hitting other brokers and other school districts around the state. So to be maybe prudent or just honest, we left it at 12% in the out years. STRS is 19.1%. That is a very steady program. That is the Certificated Teachers Retirement Program, or certificated staff. It's more than teachers. And this is the district's contribution. So for every dollar we pay in salary, the district also contributes 19.1% of that to the STRS retirement system. And we have some people this year taking advantage of that. So that's great. Good for them. CalPERS has been a little bit of a more variable story. Their percentage is higher, but it is allegedly peaking and maybe coming down to something more reasonable. But it's 26.4% for next year. So, but that's actually a larger program because that's people outside even education. It's government writ large that participate in that. And our step-in column is 1.25%. That is the built-in increase that we expect to be paying all of our staff for what is embedded in the salary schedule as they move year to year on those. Okay, so a quick comparison. I'm looking at two parts of the full multi-year projection. This shows the estimated actuals of the current year compared to the adopted budget for next school year. So the estimated actuals are our team's very best estimate of what we believe we will have spent this school year. We won't see the true numbers until September when we produce our unaudited actuals. And that's when we've had all summer long to actually close the books. And then the adopted budget is what we are planning to expend for next year. So one key thing to note, if you were looking across the certificated lines, you'll notice that we plan to spend for about $500,000 less next year, or $400,000 less next year than we did this year. The same with classified salaries, that's down. Books and supplies are down, service and operating budget down, but employee benefits are up. And even with the cuts that we've implemented, we are still seeing an expected rise in health benefits just because of that 13%. All in all, we have total estimated expenditures for the current year at $34,200,000. And next year we are planning to expend in our budget $33,100,000. And so you'll see our operating deficit is shrinking. Okay, so, and that's shrinking by $1.3 million, which is not an insignificant amount, and it's critical that it does. Okay, so speaking of the deficit, in piecing a few of these disparate parts of that larger sheet together, I've pulled in the beginning balances and the estimated ending balance there on lines 22 and 31 up here. Right above it where it says excess parentheses, deficiency, that's where you'll see $3.5 million deficit in the current year, 2.2 next year, 1.8 the year out, 1.2 the year out. So our deficit will be shrinking over time. That is what we are expecting it to do. The question is by how much and by what means. Here also is another really key number in the 28 to 29, which is the last year of the multi-year projection that we are obligated to report on. Our estimated funding balance in the unrestricted column is $487,000. So that's the number that we have to kind of focus our attention on when it comes to what is our status with the county office and the CDE. In that case, 487,000 is to the positive, and so that is our status on the adopted budget for next year. How we're able to achieve that positive rating includes several really important points. One is that in February of this year, we engaged in a fiscal stability plan that included a round of layoffs and other staffing moves in order to reduce the amount of expenditure on our unrestricted general fund. So we did move some positions, or I should say some staffing, into restricted side of the budget. And we absorbed some resignations and a retirement, and we did conduct some layoffs, and all total, it's about $1 million less in costs between classified certificated management and inclusive of benefits as well. That $1 million loss is the only reason we were able to have a positive budget now with this new one that we're presenting. Additionally, in the governor's January budget that was put out this year, the governor had already identified $1 million of one-time funding. And at the recommendation of the County Office of Ed for our second interim, we put $350,000 of that one-time money we will be receiving next year. We already allocated $350,000 of that, and that was to remain positive at our second interim back in March. We had to go deeper, and we had to include the other $650,000 in order to remain positive in the third year out of this adopted budget. So in the adopted budget, we have committed $1 million of one-time money that was already earmarked in the governor's January budget. It's already built in. Now we'll see in the May revise that more money is proposed to be part of that one-time block grant, and that's very welcome news. The third bullet point is that we have built into this budget $537,000 of cuts, further cuts that we have not executed yet to occur this upcoming year. So that is another round of layoffs to the tune of $500,000 that we are committing to next February per this adopted budget. You'll also see that we have set aside $240,000 for staff compensation in the current year, 25-26. Okay, and we do meet the required minimum 3% reserve for economic uncertainty. It's separated out in Fund 17. We started this year with 6% reserve, and that didn't last very long. We're now back to 3% reserve. So just want to reemphasize that even though we are positive, we show $487,000 in the third year out. That's with $1 million of next year's one-time funds already allocated, and it's with $500,000 of layoffs we have to do next year. So the May revise. This raised eyebrows when it came out, again, 2 weeks ago, roughly. As I noted, the 2.4% is the COLA that is in this adopted budget. As of the release of the May revise, the statutory COLA, which is based on the 8 data points that are utilized to actually achieve that value, had been confirmed and it was moved to 2.87%. And then the governor added on top of that statutory COLA what some call an augmentation, others call super COLA, and brought it up to 4.31%. Okay, so I have these highlighted in bold to know which ones are actually the ones that are in our budget right now. The discretionary block grant one-time money in the governor's January budget proposal was $1 million, proposed to increase to 1.8 million for the upcoming year for the May revise. It's an increase of $800,000 if it materializes. And then AB 602 base rate, this is special education funding. So this funding is directed towards our special education program. It goes first to our SELPA, which is our regional special education program, where we have plenty of students and services. They take their cut of it to provide their services to our students. And then we get whatever may be left over. And sometimes that's nothing. We still owe them more money. All right. So this was actually potentially very large for us. Right now, this is $918.88 per student. And this is all the students in the district, not just the special ed students. Moving to $999 in the January budget proposal and potentially up to $1340 in the governor's May revise. This money will be revenue for the restricted side of the budget, but we are already bringing in $6.5 million from unrestricted as a contribution to pay for the restricted. So this potentially would free up more money on the unrestricted side. So these are all things that could happen, but haven't yet happened for sure. And one more thing is included in the super COLA or the augmentation, the governor also said that this will be the funding mechanism for a new mandate. And that mandate is 14 weeks of paid pregnancy disability leave entitlement outside of using a person's sick leave. So that potentially could, well, it would add an increased cost to the district. And now the goal of HR departments around the state is to estimate what this might mean to their district based on historical trends, sub costs, and making some projections. There's also still the Prop 98 maneuver that the governor is still attempting to pull, which is, if I could really summarize it, per Prop 98, the state owes education more money than it's even planning to give, and they're holding some back. And they've been doing that for several years in a row now. And so the opposition to this May revise is principally against that maneuver. So I'm proud to say that we have successfully achieved positive status on this multi-year projection per this preliminary adopted budget. We want to highlight that we were able to do so because of nearly $1 million in reductions that we've already committed to. Also future layoffs that was necessary to commit to. We let go of our 6% minimum reserve. We also have increased our reliance on community donations, and that's not sustainable. And we utilize future one-time money to address what is a structural deficit. So soaring tax revenue, largely due to AI investments, has resulted in a May revised budget that, if enacted by the legislature, would bring welcome relief. But the question is, what new funds will come, in what form, and how will we use them? And we don't have the answers to those yet. So consideration for the board. If this new money materializes next year, we have some options to consider: mitigating future layoffs, restoring already impacted programs, reducing our reliance on community support, staff compensation, addressing our operating deficit, establishing a 6% minimum again. All of these will be food for thought as we wait to see the final state budget. So as we know, we have negotiations tomorrow. That's been noted. On June 16th, our final board meeting of this fiscal year, and we will bring the final adopted budget. California will hopefully have its adopted budget shortly thereafter for us to analyze. And by August 15th, that is the 45-day deadline for a revision. And given what we are looking at in the potential final state adopted budget, there will be significant changes. And we will set about making sure that all of those are implemented, and we'll have a very clear idea as early on as possible of where we stand in the out years once we have made those calculations. That's what I got.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
Very comprehensive. Trustees, questions and comments?
I believe you had some comments and I'll follow with mine.
I think I'll just let you go first.
Okay. First of all, I gotta say to Julie, thank you for what you said. Those who weren't here at the last board meeting, Vicki Powers said some things that were frankly hurtful, not well thought out. So I need to respond to that because some of the information that she shared was flat out inaccurate. At the time, I think that I can speak for all of us on the board that if we weren't astonished, we were angry. But now it's just given way to disappointment. And it's disappointment because of the efforts that we've made here on the board for the teachers to have somebody tell us that essentially we're worthless. The problem is also that it's not as if we haven't been sharing what we have been doing, trying teachers. I mean, virtually every meeting, you say what we've been doing. And yes, we don't go into great detail, but you should be able to determine from what we're saying what it is we're trying to do and trying to accomplish. And I will say that if you have read the room terribly wrong if you think divisiveness is a winning strategy. I came onto this board thinking there was going to be collaboration, going to be us together. And I hope that it doesn't evolve into that. But that's what it appeared to be 2 weeks ago. And again, thank you, Julie. It looks like we're trying to head back. But I did hear the message from Vicki, and that was, give me all the money. Is that harsh? I suppose, but I'm not sure it really is. Because if we do give all the money according to the budget that Mike just shared with us, we're going to go into insolvency. Because as Mike had mentioned, we're going to have to make $1 million cut next year just so that we can stay within state law. The state requires us to have a 3% reserve minimum. And the only money that's available to us, if Vicki wants that money, is the reserve. What happens if we go below the 3%? The state comes in and takes us over. When I say they take us over, they get rid of all of us. We don't have any choices. The teachers don't have any choices. The community does not have any choices. They come in and they say, you are going to comply with state law, and I don't care how we do it. So if Vicki really wants the money based on budget that we know, it's only going to come from the reserve, and then we go into insolvency. Are we as a board going to allow that? We will not. It's our fiduciary duty to make sure that we don't go below the state minimum of 3%. Vicki said, quote, the district has taken on new costs and expenditures elsewhere. You may have noticed that she didn't say what new costs and expenditures. And it's because unless she's talking about special education costs, which are mandated by law and which we have zero control over, or the cost of health insurance, I challenge you to find any new costs and expenditures the district has taken on. You're not going to find any. Those are the two things that have been increased. We don't have any control over it. Vicki also said there's money for other priorities, and this board has chosen to align itself with the superintendent's priorities rather than with the educators. Again, you may have noticed that she didn't say what money or what priorities. And the reason she didn't identify any other priorities is because there aren't. Teachers are paid out of the general fund. What priorities have intruded into the general fund that would prevent the teachers getting a significant raise? I don't know. Are we talking about the MTSS specialist? Well, that can't be it, because she's largely paid out of restricted funds, not the general fund. Are we talking about the wellness center? But they're paid by the COE. And next year, Kaiser is giving us $25,000 toward the wellness center. The wellness walk gathered another $40,000. There's TAD Health, there's Jewel Settlement. So how much is coming out of the general fund that could otherwise go to teachers? A pittance. So I don't know what priorities she's talking about. And if the board isn't aligned with the superintendent, well, I guess that's actually a good thing, because I can't tell you how many times I've heard Tanya say how badly she wants to give the teachers a raise. Almost every time that I'm with her for something, she mumbles something to the effect, how am I going to get them money? Mike does the same thing, frankly. So Vicki wants all the money. Maybe, here's the irony, she might get it because of the May revise, because of what Mike talked about. Vicki, you don't think we've been doing anything? Who's been talking to Congress about bringing a discharge petition to increase funding for SPED? We'll have more for the general fund. Who's been talking with Jimmy Panetta to devise a strategy to add early neutral evaluations to the IDEA to reduce attorney fees in SPED, so our general fund won't take the hit? Who's approached and followed up with Gail Pellerin regarding increased funding for mental health services and counselors? Who's devised strategies to trigger an educational block grant with Senator Laird? Well, you're looking at them. They're all up here. These efforts and more, they were not in secret, unless someone just wasn't paying attention. But again, let's go back to the irony. If anyone's been paying attention, those efforts have worked. Just 2 days after Vicki assured us of not showing up, the May revise to the state budget came out, and as Mike has shared with us, anyone who's been paying attention has known that those efforts have worked. You might think that we're a small district, and we are, but guess what? Small districts can have oversized power if you're just willing to go after it. This board did. You know, there was a guy named Willie Sutton. Anybody remember him? Willie Sutton was a bank robber. He said, people asked him, why do you rob the bank? He said, because that's where the money is. Well, we took some advice from Willie Hutton. The place where the money is the state. And that's where we went. We went to the state to get money, and it looks like it's coming.
Thank you, Gary. The comments I was going to add are that we want to remain fiscally conservative, as we already described. The bold numbers are the ones that are going to go into the budget now. And rather than like go for the 2.87 and then adjust again, we're simply going to wait for the 45-day and adjust once. And we're excited, as Gary just described. I'm excited that our advocacy at CSBA has actually led to an actual base grant improvement for the first time in a few years above the statutory COLA. But it's not done yet, and we have to wait for the final numbers. Once we get those numbers, we're excited at the opportunities for the next year's budget that can represent. So we have to hold tight. We're continuing to advocate. And I'm telling you, we're doing action alerts to go after that $3.9 billion as well. Withholding, I've already signed several and done several text messages and signed several things to go after that money, because that's still our money by the Constitution. The governor should not be withholding it. And CSBA will continue to advocate for that. So this budget, I also want to make one other comment. I don't know if you noticed, but in the second interim, the 3-year, and that was still based on January numbers, our third year out was at 200,000. It's the business department, Mike and Superintendent Krause's sharpening the pencils, going through every number and finding another $250,000 to bring that number up to $487,000. And we need that buffer. that opens the door to other possibilities if the May revise does come to pass, as we hope it will. For now, we've got to remain conservative until we actually see the real money come through in the final budget that gets signed July 1st. It is ridiculous that we have to actually approve our budget before the state adopts theirs. It creates this 45-day budget update that we have to do because the numbers are never right. But that's the rules, so that's the rules that we will follow. I'm looking forward to the May revise. I'm looking forward to the final budget, hopefully reflecting some of the numbers we saw in the May revise, because it will give us some room to maneuver and some opportunities to do what we want to do, which is better pay all of our staff. So I look forward to that. For now, this is an interim budget, so we aren't voting on it. We will vote on the budget when it comes before us at the next board meeting. At that, now I'll open it up to any public comment.
I'm sorry, I'm going to add one other thing.
Yeah.
I meant to, when I was saying the different things that our board has done for the teachers, I wanted to single out Roger. I can't even tell you how many times he is up in Sacramento fighting. I mean, he's away from his family.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate that.
On that note, Gary, I know that took to say everything. You're a pretty, what you said came from the heart, and this board really does work hard for this district. And it was a really, really a big slap in the face what Vicki Powers said to this board. I mean, I don't know. I've seen this board, Tanya and this board work really, really hard. This is probably one of the most honest boards I can say I've ever seen. They really have the teachers, students and teachers in mind. And so I know that took a lot for you, Gary, and I really appreciate you.
All right, not seeing any public comments, so let's keep going. Moving on to the arts and music in school. Oh, sorry, am I missing something?
Can we just bring it back and clarify, are there any requested changes or alterations for what we're bringing back in June?
I think as a board, we want to remain with the plan as proposed and then just do one update, hopefully with great exciting numbers, the 45-day. Right? Okay with it? That's what I thought. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Thank you. All right. Now moving on to number 3, arts and music in schools funding. This is a good source. Funding Guarantee and Accountability Act, our annual report on Prop 28.
Okay, thank you. Everything okay? Ready to go? Okay. Proposition 28, the Arts and Music Schools Funding Guarantee and Accountability Act. This is your spring 2026 report. We do need to bring you a report every year by September. Ending the year seems like a good time to tell you what we've done and where we're headed. So this was passed by the voters in November 8th, 2022. We got our first round of funding in the 23-24 school year. It is 1% of Prop 98 funding. There's that Prop 98 again. This is above and beyond Prop 98 guarantee. So this adds that new layer of funding just for arts. And the goal is to make sure that the arts education is a sustainable and steady part of our students' public education experience. There are some guidelines with how we spend this money. We must spend over 80% of our annual allocation on staffing, which necessitates that less than 20% on supplies. Supplies will also include if we do pull in any third-party contractors from the outside. So if we bring in some dance instructors, but they're not our dance instructors, they're coded as a supply, not a person. So we do have to be kind of aware of that. And the intention and auditing rules require that we are supplementing, not supplanting our arts program. So each year we are to bring to you an analysis of what we have been spending. And we then post this report on our district website. This will include the types of programs that are funded, the number of staff employed, and which schools are receiving the funding and how they're using it. What counts as art education program includes but not limited to, and it's a really large list. So I'm sure every district has come up with lots of fun ways to spend it. It could be instruction and training, supplies and materials, partnerships. And the type of instruction that is included in that is just about everything I can think of. And I think underwater basket weaving probably would be sufficient. So for the 25-26 school year, that is the current year. You can see for the 4 school sites, we had some healthy beginning fund balances, 250,000 total. We received 284,000 in total allocation. We are expecting to spend 318,000 and have 216,000 left over. If you recall from last year, our very first year of allocation in 23-24, we did not use up all that money. And so we've been running on some carryover year to year, and you're going to see that that carryover is being dutifully spent down. So we'll get to that with next year. So this year we did have a music teacher shared between the elementary schools. We had an art teacher and a classified art teacher shared between the elementary schools. We bought playwrights for the middle school. We had a music or audio production software purchase for the middle school. We paid for some band and some drama. The high school got a new kiln for their ceramics class. We continued to fund theater productions after school and media arts. And we are also using this money to help pay our musical consultants who have used to work, you know, for pittances and put on that amazing, amazing performance. And now we're able to compensate them appropriately. And so next year, we will have a 216,000 estimated starting balance. We will receive 284,000, which will be adjusted because we don't get to hear next year's allocation just yet. They'll publish that and then we'll adjust those numbers. You can see we are planning to expend significantly more, 390,000, and leave us with 110,000 left over at the end of next school year. The increase in expenditure is partly due to our fiscal stability plan, where we were able to bring some veteran staff into this Prop 28 funding with the increased costs associated with their veteran salary schedule placement. All in all, we're trying to maintain what we have. We're not proposing any substantive changes. There will be an additional visual arts class at the high school that we're able to bring in on this funding, and that's probably the biggest one. So in summary, we are spending a little bit more money next year. And it will mean that we will run out of that carryover fund balance probably by the end of next year, and we'll have to pull back a little bit. But we see that coming, and we will make appropriate plans next year to allow for that. This has been a very welcome source of money, and we are excited about being able to pull some of the funding stress off of our parent clubs and community donations for this purpose, which is the intention of the voters. And I think most significantly at the secondary schools, just bring attention again to our theater arts program, which is just wonderful. And I know you are all huge proponents and go every year. And so making sure that that's sustainable has been a big goal of ours. And there we have it.
Very good. Thank you, Mike. Questions or comments from the board? Questions or comments from the public? All right, seeing none, this is an action item. It requires a roll call vote since it is a resolution. So first, can I get a motion to approve the Proposition 28 annual report?
A motion to approve? Second.
Very good. Roll call vote. How do you vote, Stephanie?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
Erica?
Aye.
And I vote yes as well. Thank you, Mike. Great program. And yes, it's been a welcome source of funding for our arts. We love it. All right, moving on to number 4, adopt board resolution 26036, California Multiple Awards Schedule, CMAS. Right.
So the next 2 items, both N4 and N5, are going to be presented by Brett McFadden from DAG.
Mr. Chairman and members, Brett McFadden
Brett.
with the District Advocates Group. I'm sorry, sir, I was not recognized by you. I apologize.
No, I said, welcome, Brett.
Oh, thank you. All right. Talked right over you. I apologize. This is an enabling action this evening. The California Multiple Awards Schedule is administered by the state of California. It is a procurement strategy, a procurement program that allows local governments, municipal, as well as school districts to participate in the program for certain types of acquiring equipment or services. And you have 2 action items on consent later tonight that will utilize the CMAS program. You had a resolution adopted a number of years ago. It does require that you update that resolution periodically. This code doesn't say when, but we thought that there's been recent additions to the CMAS program, so we thought we'd bring it before you tonight.
Basically everything Brett just said, but with all of the construction projects upcoming, this would be critically important for the district to have in place an updated version of this resolution.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight the sentence here that use of a CMAS contracts allows the district to obtain pricing and services without having to conduct separate formal bidding processes. We ride on the coattails of others who already went through the bidding process and established these services at certain prices. So it allows us to accelerate the process as well as get good pricing that other agencies have already established.
That is
So
correct.
It's a win-win for us.
Yep.
Questions or comments from the trustees? Any from the public? Seeing none, can I get a motion to adopt Board Resolution 26036?
So moved.
I second.
Very good. Again, resolution, so a roll call vote. Tiffany, how do you vote?
Aye.
Barry?
Aye.
Erica? And I vote yes as well. Thank you very much for bringing that forward. Motion carries unanimously. And then moving to number 5, delegation of authority, portable roof project.
Mr. Chair, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Brett McFadden once again. What we're seeking this evening is a delegation of authority to the superintendent to award and enact an eventual portable roof repair project. That is, we've experienced some logistical challenges in the bid process of this. We're going to need to go out to bid, but because of your summer schedule, we'd like to be able to rebid this and move quickly, and then have the superintendent be authorized to enact this. This bid, it is required by law to come back to you so that you ratify the superintendent's action at that point in time. But this will allow us to be able to move quickly to adopt a bid, put it into action over the summer months and get back on schedule.
Very good. Thank you, Brett. Questions or comments from the trustees? Questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, looking forward to getting our portables re-roofed. Can I get a motion to approve the delegation of authority for the portable roof project?
I motion to approve.
Yep.
Second.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to consent. Are there any items on the consent agenda that trustees would care to discuss or to pull aside? Seeing none. Very good. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Consent agenda is passed. It's a great week, folks. Looking forward to all the graduations and promotions. Do check out the schedule there. And then we will be back here June 16th for our final meeting of this year. I call this meeting closed at 8:10 p.m. Have a good evening. Thank you.